Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today. It has certainly been an eventful weekend. Were you able to tune out the news and get any rest at all, Niall?
I was trying my best. I had family members in town, so I was able to tune out on Saturday, and then, of course, events took over and it was more difficult to ignore them. Do you have a good weekend, Robby?
I did have a good weekend, but
Excellent.
I woke up this morning with a fire to discuss everything that is going on.
Well, let's get started with that then. What is on your radar?
Regime change. Those are the two words on everybody's mind following the U.S. military's successful strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. Operation Midnight Hammer has been deemed a rousing success, burying Fordo under rubble and apparently setting back Iran's nuclear program by months or years. We'll discuss that in a little bit. Many individuals in the MAGA coalition are, however, skeptical of President Donald Trump's decision to join Israel in attacking Iran, a decision that Trump apparently made after consulting Israeli intelligence and facing pressure from Israel's government to act. Trump, of course, ran for president as the peace candidate and promised no new wars in the Middle East. But he's also dead set against the idea of Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon, and so here we are. Initially after the strikes, Trump issued a statement
that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel.
But on Truth Social, Trump wrote, "Now is the time for peace," and he urged the Iranian government to come to the negotiating table. Well, that's a good sentiment, although some people may wonder whether, having just been attacked, Iran has any interest in coming to the negotiating table. Do they want diplomacy, or are they more determined to fight than they were previously? Regardless, the America First contingent of the MAGA movement, which does not want to become involved in another war in the Middle East and thought that Trump was the guy to keep us out of it, could at least take comfort in the fact that the strikes were aimed at Iran's nuclear capabilities and were not about, apparently, overthrowing the Iranian regime. When asked on the Sunday shows whether we were now at war with Iran, Vice President J.D. Vance said, well, we were at war with Iran's nuclear program, not with the country itself. Of course, maybe he has to say that because the U.S. has not declared war on Iran, something that would take a vote by Congress. But then, just hours ago, Trump wrote something else on Truth Social. It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be regime change? MAGA, I don't know how to say that. Look, if the people of Iran rise up in some glorious spirit of liberation and replace their Islamic theocratic rulers with a secular democracy, that would obviously be great. It just seems extremely unlikely to me that it will actually happen. Our previous regime change experiences in the region have gone horribly. There was Iraq, there was Libya, there was Syria, etc. U.S. foreign policy cannot revolve around regime change in the Middle East. It doesn't work. The American people don't want it. U.S. leaders who have agitated for it have exposed themselves as naive time and time again. Now, Donald Trump typically has excellent political instincts. I fully concede that. But in this one, he's not listening to the base, which wants America first. Trump should spend more time with Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Rand Paul and Joe Rogan and everybody in the MAGA movement who put some degree of faith in Trump because he consistently opposed disastrous wars in the Middle East. Make Iran great again? I'm sorry, no, it's make America great again. And America will not be great if we are bogged down in another Middle East war. We did not vote to enact the political agenda of the late Senator John McCain. We voted to mind our own business and focus on domestic problems. I really thought Trump got that. Now I am not entirely sure, because he is in fact going farther, Niall, than some of what his advisors have said, that no, this is about taking out the nuclear capabilities, and now we want to negotiate. It's not about regime change. Trump is giving voice to the regime change crowd that has been part of a Republican establishment that he himself ran against and largely beat back into the shadows, into obscurity, and now seems to be once again directing our Middle East policy, our foreign policy, no matter who we vote for, from Barack Obama to Donald Trump and everything in between. We still get a foreign policy geared around regime change.
Yeah, he is opening the door to that very wide. Having run as a candidate who was closed off from that sort of thing, you drew the contrast with John McCain, the late John McCain, who had a much more interventionist mindset. And I think that's why this has caused such consternation to the Steve Bannons and Tucker Carlsons. And, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I have criticised about 99 times out of 100 things that she's done, has actually stuck with her principles in this one and continues to say that she thinks it is wrong for the US to be essentially fighting a war at Israel's behest. And I think that is correct. In terms of regime change and this Truth Social post that Trump made, it just seems to me a basically ludicrous assumption that the Iranian people will be made more amenable to throwing off their rulers while the US and Israel are bombing them, changing them at the behest of Israel and the United States. If anything, that seems to me much more likely to make the Iranian people more to rally round the flag, even though they have many very well-founded objections to that theocratic regime.
Right, and what would that even look like? I get that. I know that Ali Khamenei is a very old man. He could, if we continue military intervention, it is fully possible we could kill him intentionally or inadvertently, and then he would be replaced because he would no longer be alive. He would no longer be the head of the government. That doesn't mean the government itself will change in character. It could just be another theocratic Islamic extremist. Mm-hmm. So the idea of it changing in a way favorable to us, you know, when you go through past examples of regime change that has more or less succeeded, we have to go back basically to World War II. We go, yes, we did regime change in Germany. We did regime change in Japan. That took occupying the countries with troops, destroying, in the case of Germany, destroying the entire country. In the case of Japan, not the entire country, but killing hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people in not just the nuclear bombings, but the firebombing of Tokyo before that, and then occupying the country for a long period of time. Sure. That is what successful regime change, a regime change that was favorable to the United States' interests, that's what it took. It took an occupation. Is that what we're going to do? Right.
Well, and also in those cases, obviously in the case of Japan, it had attacked the United States. Yes. And in the case of Nazi Germany, it was an absolute horrific threat to democracy and freedom in the world. Right. I think there is easily an argument that could be made that Iran could have been contained and could continue to be contained. And this expansive sort of vision of regime change, I think, is crazy stuff. Just briefly, I noticed that some of the people pushing it, well, they're kind of giving me flashbacks to the Iraq War when there were guys like Ahmad Chalabi and all those guys around selling people in Washington on the idea that this was all going to be fantastic, would be welcomed as liberators. Did not work out that way.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this more during the show a lot, but for now I'll just say it's going to be, I know exactly how this is going to go. It's going to be tough for people on the right who say, I like Trump, but I disagree with him on this, or I think this is going a little bit further than I want it to go, and they're going to be called unpatriotic or traitors. You already see Thomas Massie facing some of that. I'm sure Rand Paul's going to get the same thing. I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene's going to get the same thing. But we know how this works. We know how it works with Iraq, is that in hindsight, those people, the American people, come to side more and more with, after the patriotic fervor of the hell yes, we bombed them, great, starts to die down, and we ask questions about what are we actually doing here? What did we accomplish? Was this good? With Iraq, it took a while. I mean, the public opinion caught up with it before our leadership did. But I would say to people like myself on the right who are skeptical at best and want more restraint, hold the line. We're not going to just fall in line. We're not going to do whatever Trump wants us to do in all circumstances. It is better to stand up for your principles. You will, in hindsight, feel better about yourself and be proven correct.
Always a good idea to stand up for your principles. Meanwhile, DHS has now issued a terror advisory amid that conflict between Israel and Iran. We have more on that next.